I, James, founded and work for HPI, but do not represent them or any of their opinions.
Welcome to Season 9, Episode 327 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Each week, we definitively answer one question about the future of tech. To do that, we take into account many factors, including the companies involved, the people working for them, their marketing campaigns, and of course, the technology they're developing. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and making $192 million in his opening box office this weekend is my brother, James Furlo.
At the risk of completely hijacking today's podcast, I did not watch Black Panther.
What?
But because it finally came out on iTunes, I did watch Justice League.
That came out on iTunes.
And it's amazing. I absolutely loved it. By far one of my favorite movies in a long time.
Hey, first off, you should have waited till the center of the thing because we got an ad coming for the DCCU later.
Oh, do we?
So chill out.
Oh, look at that.
Back up. That was going to be this funny thing I was going to do. We're talking about, it's going to be good.
You know what? It was good enough. We can do it. We'll do it twice.
All right, cool.
I finally watched it. It's awesome. I don't understand. People I'm talking to. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I said I was at the risk of hijacking it. The movie was really good. It was made for me, which I'm a DC fan, and man, it was good. Have you seen it? I don't know. No, I recommend you watch it.
I will. I was waiting for it to come out on iTunes.
It's out on iTunes. Yeah, I just thought it was super well done. Thoroughly entertained. I now own it. It's fantastic. It's funny, Marvel's starting to get a little all right, guys, finish up with the Avengers thing. It's kind of like we've been going on for a while, and I know it's coming out this year, and I got to be patient. But I'm also man, there's been a lot of movies. I feel like it's creating a huge time investment, and there's just been a few where I'm they're good. Yeah, they've all been number one box office hits. Congratulations. But I'm also all right, I'm ready for something a little new and a little different. And man, DC provided in spades, and it's good.
That's interesting because everybody hated that movie.
I know. I don't know why. Here's what.
Huge box office disappointment.
Here's what I know why is because they made the movie for the comic book fans. Whereas what Marvel has done is they've said we're going to ignore the comics. We're just going to make good movies, and we're actually going to explain the universe to people, and we're going to try to pull them. We're making the movies for people who don't watch comics. Whereas you can tell the DC movie was totally made by and for comic book nerds. I don't think I'll be spoiling anything for you here, but it follows the ethos of the Justice League perfectly from the comics. For example, in the comics, they never take themselves too seriously for whatever reason. Yeah, the world's falling apart, but no big deal. And part of it, here's the interesting part, is when they first came out on television, it was during a time period where you couldn't actually show people fighting. That just wasn't allowed. So the Justice League was always about fighting natural disasters and things like that. They would punch a tornado. And they're we had to come up with these really weird, creative things. And so you just have fun with it. And so there was a lot of comedy in it. And again, I'm not spoiling anything, but so the movie has that to it. And here's the other thing is, and this is a big difference, I think, between Marvel and Justice League. A big part of the Justice League was the League would go out and find new superheroes. And that was how they got introduced into the DC world, was through the Justice League. And it was through the Justice League you would get the origin story of them. And then they would go off and create their own spin-off. Whereas Marvel, they did it opposite, right? You got all these heroes who are kind of on their own independent journey, and then they come together at the end for some big battle. Justice League has historically been opposite. And so when you know that kind of stuff, you're I think it's cool that they're introducing Cyborg and the Flash and Aquaman instead of them doing their own independent, because that's one of the big criticisms I've heard is you should do the independent, bring them together. And it's no, you
You know, it's fascinating
It's
about this
not
conversation. I'm
just
just
it
sitting here and
works.
listening, but I listen to way too many comic book like guys that comic book podcasts,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
like super fans and completely different tone. They like the movie, but a lot of it is because they're like it's fun and dumb and it's fine, you know. And they're like it's fine. I watched
That's
it
the
the first
Justice
time,
League.
but there's nothing. It's not. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. That's interesting. Because I would actually go out on a limb and say that that the Black Panther is. I can't. I'm actually not going to say it. Never mind.
Did you see it?
I did. I saw it on Saturday. I liked it.
You and most everybody else in the U.S.
I know,
apparently.
right? $192 million. Crazy.
Not bad, not bad. I'm sure it was a good movie. Look, Disney does a fantastic job of making movies. They get it. This is not to diminish Marvel in any way. I'm just saying it's a good movie.
Hey, quick question. Do you have any idea how long we've been talking?
Yeah, 5 minutes and 47 seconds.
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool.
All right, hijack over. Back to the main.
That's all right. So yeah, the real reason we're here, James.
I just had to get that out of the way.
So the question that I want to ask this week is, what's the difference between a disruptive redesign and a disruptive innovation and a tone deaf redesign? We got a couple of different things that are going on this week. I think the big one is Snapchat has gained about half of its value back, which is exciting. Half the value it's lost, it's gained back because it's innovative redesign, James. It's changed. It's taking the world by storm.
Amazing.
I know.
I wouldn't know since I deleted it on my phone.
I know. I actually had to look up what the redesign was because I couldn't. I've got like. So I'm like, I don't know what that means about this show. The fact that neither one of us are using the product and we don't have any sense. But I read some stuff.
Just means we're too old.
I don't know if that's the case. Well, it's not. Well, I actually don't know that that's the case because most of the people that I know that use the heaviest are as old, if not older than me.
Huh.
Man, that just means I might know old people, but at the very least.
You think old. That's your problem.
There we go. Yeah, boring. Yeah. I just anyways.
So that's one.
Yeah, so that's one of them. Barnes & Noble's fired a bunch of people this week. One of the, which isn't necessarily something, but what's interesting about it is on Monday, the company laid off 1,800. Oh, I hate autoplay ads or autoplay videos. The worst.
Those are the worst.
On Monday, the company laid off 1,800 people. This offered a cost savings of $40 million, but that's particularly interesting. That means each of the people made an average of $22,000 or so per year, and minimum wage workers, hourly folks who are usually hit hardest during post-holiday downturns, would be making $15,000 a year. In fact, what Barnes & Noble did was fire full-time employees at 781 stores from a former employee. On Monday morning, every single Barnes & Noble location told their full-time employees to pack up and leave. Eliminated positions were as follows: the head cashiers, the receiving managers, digital leads, newsstand leads, people responsible. So this is not being announced as a redesign, but I would argue that it is. They're doing it for cost-saving reasons, but they're basically changing what the website, what the company does in a pretty significant way, trying to reduce costs so that they can stay competitive with Walmart and Amazon and the rest of the digital world. And then you've got an example that if you want to give
so people have been, and we've been in this camp too, have been beating up Apple for their software problems. And Steven Sinofsky, who was what was he, the head of Windows at Microsoft, or he was something important at Microsoft. He wrote a very long tweet storm and then compiled it all in a single place about it. And it was very interesting. Some of the things that he talked about, and we'll kind of jump in before we go back to bashing Snapchat. But he was saying one of the problems that he said a couple things. The first one, he says that the more a product is used, the more hypersensitive people get to how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So the human brain is extraordinary in how it recognizes even the slightest changes in responsiveness, performance, and the sequencing of operations. And so he said, it's incredible how even the smallest changes can become disorienting. We used to say how this was rooted in primordial instinct for survival, the ability to spot a tiger in the grass that might jump out and eat us. That same ability to detect small changes drives us nuts on computers. And one of the things he says about Apple is he's like, look, Apple has the same bug ratio as everybody else. He's like, but what's interesting is that scale, because what happens to 0.01% of people is a lot of people for Apple. He's like, we'll fill a stadium full of people for Apple. And so he's like, so a small bug for a small percentage of people is actually a very large number of people. And because it's a device that we use all the time, we're hypersensitive already to begin with, which just exacerbates a problem, which gives a perception that Apple has a software problem. It's like, he goes, but in reality, they're normal. and he's like, yeah, we had these same issues. We just weren't as big as them. And it wasn't, and our product wasn't used as much. It's a good problem to have, but he goes, and as a result, they are now reorganizing and fixing things to try to prevent some of that. But he's like, but we're in unprecedented territory.
That's an interesting observation from a presumed competitor, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah. He doesn't. He goes, I'm an outsider. I just happen to be very knowledgeable of what it's like to have a high volume software product.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, and so let's bring it back around to the
which again, it's like so some of go ahead, bring it around to the disruption versus tone deaf.
Yeah, so one of the things is, and this is the bigger idea, I kind of want to bounce on, because as much fun as it is to just bash on Snapchat,
it is fun.
I don't think they've proved they've done anything wrong yet.
I agree. If anything, it's like maybe they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. And the example I want to give is the compare and contrast is the Facebook newsfeed redesigns versus Dig V4. Dig V4 legendarily killed the website, whereas Facebook went through multiple redesigns of the newsfeed that every time they changed it would drive people mad. There would be these
batty.
Every year they'd announce new features and new redesigns, and people would go nuts and I'm going to quit Facebook. I'm going to be over with it, and it would spur growth.
I think it was at one point in time they had one of those. What are they, like the community petition things, the petition.org, or I forget what the website is. They had like over 1 million people petitioning them just over the timeline redesign.
Oh, this is going to come back around because. Guess who's got a change.org petition going?
Yeah. There you go. I'm not surprised. But again, it was like, there's a part of me that's like, if you got 1 million people and you're talking about the size of a platform where you have multiple millions of people, that's actually not bad. It's a small, again, it's like this weird, it's a small percentage. Yeah.
Well, and I think what's interesting is that it's, so Dig V4 is this fascinating thing, right? Because it was the pace at which, like the problem with a platform like Dig, for those of you who don't know, because it's now internet history, Dig was actually bigger than Reddit. They were pretty close competitors, but Dig was more successful. Very similar platforms, very similar concepts. You could upvote content, you could upvote comments, and it was sort of this crowdsourced collaborative was the most popular thing. Dig wanted to change how their platform and orient to your feed would be constructed of a much smaller network of people that you chose to connect with, to follow. And so it'd still be the wisdom of the crowd, but it would be focused on a smaller group of people that you really cared about. And that way, the idea would be that it would be more tuned to your individual tastes. And so everybody would get a different...
which on the surface sounds awesome.
Yeah, well, it's the Facebook newsfeed. I mean, that's what they were trying to build.
Or it's like it's Twitter if you just had the news article headlines.
Exactly. And this idea was that they did one other thing that I think was a major faux pas, which was they got rid of the bury button. They got rid of the the ability to hide to
a couple faux pas, but yeah.
Well, and that one was such a big one because from a functional perspective, that didn't need to go away, but it was a perceptual one. They were trying to change a perception of the community and like this idea of we're not into negative stuff, which Facebook, they never introduced the down thumb for the thumbs down for the exact same reason, but Facebook just never introduced it, whereas Dig took it away. And they were like, look, it didn't do anything anyways. It was just a pressure relief that people could feel good about. Like we didn't...
You could hide comments, though. That was, well, I mean, that was it was about, dude, hiding comments.
And we say, well, and that was actually their response. They said hiding comments has the same effect as downvoting stuff, except the thing goes away and we look at the algorithm the same way. It feeds in. That functionality is still there. But people are like, no, I like downvoting things. And I like burying stuff. Exactly. And what was, so you had these two big redesign factors. And then the real problem, I think, was that Reddit was such a close competitor that it was able to take the people who were sharing between the two because they were sort of had similar content and similar, phases and stuff, similar type of platform. People could go back and forth. Yeah. And what happened was as people went to Reddit started to blow up and content slowed on Dig, so the first round of people who were really temperamental just went to Reddit full time, the first 5%. That slowed down content. So the next 5% were like, well, content's kind of slowing down. And I use Reddit occasionally, so I'll use it more. It took about a month and a half for somebody like me to finally go, look, this is terrible. I don't get any good stuff anymore. Where'd all the things go? I'm going to check out this Reddit place that everybody's been telling me about. And whereas, with Facebook, when they did their redesigns, there wasn't really an alternative. There wasn't anything. And I actually think that's the biggest threat that Snapchat has. They probably would be completely fine, except that Snapchat or that Instagram is pretty threatening in the same way that Reddit was threatening. The biggest difference being that Reddit couldn't handle the load of extra people and they were really unstable for like a year and a half after that because they couldn't, it was hard for them to grow with the enormous number of users that came over.
Yeah.
Whereas Instagram, that's what they do that for lunch, like whatever.
They're trying to figure out how to grow faster.
Exactly. Yeah, their system can handle the traffic. They're trying to figure out how to get more people into it. I think that's Snapchat's biggest danger because they suffer with the same issue. It's these creators, if the creators have a better opportunity that they can spend their time on commenting and interacting with their users, and it's Instagram, they'll go there. They'll spend more time there if that's where they're going to get more action. And users, if they're going to get more likely to have interactions with the content creators on Instagram, they'll go there, and it has a feedback system. That being said, if your platform's struggling, if you're like, I think Barnes and Noble is an interesting one because it's like they didn't have a choice. They were running out of money. They needed to save $40 million a year, so they needed to. They know that this redesign that they're going through isn't the end goal. All it is extending the runway while they figure out how do we survive in Amazon's world, and I don't think they have a good answer for that. But unfortunately, because I loved that store growing up, but one of the examples for them that they give is the fact that they, that one of the people that they fired anecdotally was a dude who did like kids corner things where kids would come in and you read stories to them and dress up and stuff.
Yeah.
Like those are the sort of employees that made at Barnes and Noble like a community center, library-esque, where people could go and get coffees and the kids could play around and people could, serve books and stuff. That's why it was fun, is because of the overall experience of being there with other people and all the different things they had available. That was their core competency. And now they're getting rid of that because they can't afford it because nobody buys books there anymore.
I wonder how much it was like, honestly, it was Starbucks that killed them and not just Amazon. Because they were kind of like the coffee hangout spot before Starbucks came along.
Well, yeah. And it had the double-edged sword of Starbucks came in and they were like, the Starbucks did their thing in Barnes and Noble, and Seattle's Best did their thing in Borders, and those coffee shops came in and kind of, that's symbiotic. You could get that same experience someplace else if you wanted to be an aspiring writer with your MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
And drink in the coffee shop, you drink at the bookstore coffee shop, and then you moved on. And
it's so interesting. Like, what is your core competency? What are you willing to outsource to someone else versus say, no, this is important that we own it? I think like HP has decided it's not important for us to have a storefront.
Yeah.
Whereas Apple has, and Microsoft's kind of in this weird hybrid, like, yeah, kind of. And it's kind of like, is that important? And I think like that's like with Barnes and Noble, it's like, man, you know what? The coffee, that could have been your thing.
I think that
could you imagine if you had a Barnes and Noble coffee shops that just so happen to have bookshelves around?
Well, I mean,
that could have worked.
I have long thought that that's what they should have done. It makes me sad that that's not what they did. Before we get too far, James, we've got an ad.
Yeah, and then I want to share an HP story
because they need to help James. This show is being brought to you by the DCCU, the DC Cinematic Universe,
the best universe.
They don't. Literally,
I'm a fanboy.
Black Panther has made more money than.
See, I got it right here.
It's fine.
Just ready to grab.
It's fine. Black Panther has made more money than.
I got some Action Comics. I'm legit.
Dude, it's not good.
If you're a fan of Superman or Wonder Woman or Batman, I highly recommend you go watch. You download.
Turns out this isn't a fun make fun of them thing. This is an actual ad.
Sorry. It just so happened I watched it the other day and went, "This is fantastic."
Hey, you know what?
Sorry, you know what?
You know what? Honestly,
go watch it. Report back.
I'm a believer that I want I don't have a vested interest. I want all comic book movies to be good because if comic book movies
high tide rises all boats.
Man, in this case, I actually think that Disney agrees with this. They would have rather Justice League be $1 billion movie than a $650 million movie, which barely covered costs. Probably didn't cover costs. It didn't. Its domestic run, its entire domestic total, didn't cover the cost of making the movie.
That's a shame. It's a good movie
because that doesn't include advertising, and advertising normally doubles the budget, and so that's pretty far from.
People are which you know what, I actually think this is an interesting it's obviously a different industry, but it's the same thing, right? People have an expectation for how a comic book movie will go and for how it will build via Marvel and Disney, because they kind of took the narrative on here's how we do it, and clearly it's been successful. And here comes DC along going, we're going to do it differently. And people go, whoa, that's a little different than what I'm used to. I don't like it. Change.org, or what is it? Petition change? What is it again?
Change.org.
Change.org.
Petition change.com.
I don't know. Whatever. .blogspot. And I just I feel like it's that same thing where people, it's a good movie, but because of all these prior expectations they've had, they go, whoa, no, it's not good. I hate it. And it's because of we've gotten this weird culture of that's your option. It's either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. See, I'm tying it all together. There's none of this you know what, they're both good in their own different ways.
Yeah, honestly, it's funny. One of the reasons I was struggling with this topic tonight, and I didn't really want to talk about it too much because I didn't want it to be a super negative, make fun of Snapchat all night. Because we could, and they might deserve it, but
I feel like we've done it enough this year.
But seriously, how many times can you hit the same topic? Whereas I think the more interesting question is, how does a company what does Snapchat need to do to grow again, to turn it around? They
had to do something,
exactly.
And I'm gonna half bring this in just because I think it's important, because it comes back to the overall question of the difference between disruptive innovation and tone deaf redesigns. Because HP went through this, and I probably have told this story at the very beginning of this podcast, episode 10, but it's worth repeating. And it's a fascinating case study because HP recorded everything apparently, because I don't know why, but they were looking to come out with some new laptops. And
this is one of my favorite stories in tech.
it's such a classic.
Oh,
it's such a classic where they were like, okay, they talked to their engineers, of course, and engineers were like, everyone wants things thin, light, and they want the battery to last forever.
Which sounds reasonable. I think we'd all agree.
There, right? Yeah. And so HP was like, moving forward. So they came up with some concept designs, and thankfully, someone really smart was like, hey, we should focus group this. And it was really what they were trying to decide was what's more important, thin, light, or extra long battery. They're like, which of the three should we optimize for?
Right.
And because they're like, if you get the extra long battery, it's not going to be as thin or as light and whatever. And so what they did was they were talking about, they had this focus group and they said, okay, we've got this first one where we remove the speakers and we remove the optical drive and, we've done all these things. And they were asking all these questions and trying to really dive into how can we get this as thin as possible and optimize the battery life? And what if we one was like, what if we get rid of color on the screen? I mean, it was like crazy, things. And it was about halfway through, someone was like, wait, so if I don't have speakers, how do I listen to music?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, there's still a headphone jack. You can plug it in and listen to it. They're like, so I'd have to have headphones to listen to music. Like, well, yeah, because you want it thin and light. Like, okay. And then it was like, what if and then it was like, you could do they had the whole module thing. I don't know if you remember those days. They're like, so if you'd have your CD module, because it wasn't a DVD, it was like your CD module. And they're like, okay, but what if I wanted to save a file to a flash drive, a floppy disk?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, you would take out that module and put in the new one, and then you'd save it. Like, so if I was listening to music, I'd have to stop listening to my music to save the file. And they're like, yeah, and you'd have these things you'd carry around with you in your bag, but your computer would be thin and light and have an extra long battery life. And someone was like, well, I really would like to have speakers. Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, you're going to give up your thinness. And someone was like, I'd really like to be able to, again, listen to music and be able to save stuff. And it was like, with this progression where it got to the end, the conclusion was they wanted every single feature, and they were, in order to get all of them, they were okay with an extra heavy, large, low battery laptop. The exact opposite of having all the features and having the convenience of everything in one was what they wanted. And it was just HP dodged a huge bullet on that one, because they started out with this tone deaf redesign, listening to what their internals, because again, on the surface, it totally makes sense. But thankfully, they talked to people and got done and went, oh, no, we need to rethink these designs. And they literally had these cardboard mock-ups, and people were putting all the features together and stacking up these big things. And they're like, yeah, I want that. Let's get all the features. This is crazy story. And I think that's so hard to do, because you get a thing like Snapchat or Dig V4 where it's you're not really going to release it to the world ahead of time, because you kind of want the yay, big splash, we did this thing. And there's the whole Henry Ford, and I asked people what they wanted, they would have said better buggy whips. There's there's belief of customers really don't know what they want until they see it. And you do see the apparent success of Facebook, where it's look, they just did it. And yeah, they had some reactions, but 2 billion users tells they made the right bet. I think.
Yeah.
Right. And who knows, maybe they'd be 5 billion by now. It's hard to tell. So
No.
So I get where that is, and it's super hard to do. And I don't know for companies like Snapchat and then again, like we were talking about with Apple, you were talking about companies with a scale and a size that it's even if you just have a small fraction of your people, it amounts to a big number, a newsworthy number where you go, 1 million people. Oh my gosh, hate this update. Well, yeah, but we have 24 million that visit a month.
Right.
What's 1 million?
Right. Yeah. And honestly, again, those are actually diehard fans. They're so invested that they're going to try to take time to make enough noise. The people you're terrified of losing are the 20 million people or the 10 million people who, Instagram's fine.
Right.
Those are the scary ones, because those were the people that killed Dig. It was those Medium users who were somewhat engaged but were fine just going somewhere else. And
well, it's hard to you got to recognize what's that secret sauce, what's that thing that you can't give up. Like I heard, and I don't know how true this is, but for a lot, I know it's, or how pervasive it is what I really should say. For a lot of people, their Snapchat streaks got erased, reset. Yeah. And people were just like crushed because their hope is in something not good.
Yeah, I personally think that was it's a horrible idea for Snapchat, you know.
Well, I think that's one thing where you're like, dude, if I knew that if I had a streak going and you killed it on me, I go, well, let me see what Instagram looks like.
Well, honestly,
I'd be so upset every time I open the app, knowing that I lost that streak.
Well, it's funny. I would be really upset, especially because I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault. I didn't lose.
Right. But it's like, I didn't forget.
I'm going to say, but then I do have times where it's like I have a streak going in a game or something, because it's like I got different like Sudoku, you know, how many games can I go without a loss? And you start getting into like 100, 150 games, like it takes me weeks and weeks and weeks of like playing a couple times a day to get there. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I lose it, and I mess up one game, and I will just like, I guess I'm going to go try a different game for a couple of weeks. And it's like, that's nobody's fault but my own, but still, like,
right.
You know, it's that when you have that sort of feedback, just to do that to everybody at once, I think that's the danger. I had
an app where I was tracking a streak of how often I flossed. And it just so happened that I was traveling internationally. Yeah. And I mean, I've been going for like, it was over a year of this streak of just flossing every single day and checking in and marking it off. I did it. And something weird happened where like I was traveling internationally and a time change happened. And as a result, one of the days it got bumped to the previous day or the following day. And all of a sudden my streak was over. And it was one of those where like, because I was traveling internationally and I was like half paying attention, it reset. I reached out to the company. I was like, guys, look, I'll be honest. I flossed that day. I would really like credit for flossing that day. How hard is it for you to go back into your system and give me credit for that day? I was like, you'll notice I kind of had a little bit of a streak going, and this is important to me and my dentist. And they went in and they fixed it, right? And they did. I was like, you guys are awesome. And you know, and they made a fan for life. What was interesting though is when I traveled to Indonesia, I was gone for 3 weeks and had no internet connection. That was what ended it for me. Because I went, well, you know, I can't update it. I don't feel bad about this. And I just never got back into it because the streak was over.
I don't really care about my monthly streaks on my Apple Watch, which is not good for my health. I should care about that for my own reasons. But the maniacal I have to get every day so I can get a month award. Really, really the thing that always goes back and kills me is I updated my phone. I got a new phone. And I reconnected it to my watch. And that day, 1 month, towards the end of the month, I lost that day. And it was like, you know, for whatever reason. And I actually went into Apple and was like, is there anything we can do about this? And they were just like, no. there's just don't do that again. That's not a good solution. That's not an option. Exactly. And it's amazing how powerful those streak things get psychologically. And yeah, I don't know.
But it's like this, and I want to, because I think it comes back to the bigger answer is it's understanding what's your secret sauce. Yep. What's important to people. Yeah. What's your core competency and
own it.
Right. And I think if you can embrace that and make it stronger and at the very least not lose it, you're going to have a disruptive innovation if you're trying to change things. Because that means you truly understand what's important to people. Whereas if you don't do that, it's going to look more like a tone deaf redesign. And what's interesting from a polished standpoint, from a coded up standpoint, everything else can look exactly the same. Can you tell I'm a marketer? Mm-hmm. Everything else can look exactly the same. But if you don't do that part of it, you're going to have a Dig V4. And I think, yes, there's something to execution and things like that too. But clearly, like if Twitter can survive a fail whale because they got a good idea, like, if you're truly hitting on something that's important to people, they'll be pretty forgiving.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think we are at least 3 months away from telling if this is a good idea or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
To
Well, and they're muddying the waters because they're doing a few other things at the same time. Like they're opening up their advertising platform to third parties. They're creating analytic tools for their creators. So they're doing things that are smart that they should have been doing like a long time ago. They're finally getting around to it, where you're like, that's going to keep people around.
Their spike in stock has nothing to do with the redesign. Everybody that's telling you that is wrong. It has to do with the fact that they actually beat expectations for advertising because they opened up new advertising like channels and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's all that Wall Street cares about.
Well, exactly. Well, and that's the irony of that to me, of the fact that they, but that being said, like, that keeps money around. That keeps money that they get infused with cash when they do that. And that helps, extend the runway and extend the runway and everything. It's important. So it's, well.
Yeah. So there you go. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts? It's okay.
Sorry. I don't. I'm breaking up.
No, that's okay. It said my internet connection was unstable. So it's me, not you. Apparently. Cool. So the question for you is, what do you think the difference between disruptive innovation and a tone deaf redesign is? And what do you think Snapchat is disruptive, or do you think it's tone deaf? That's what we would love to hear. So with that, we'd like to say thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. You can check out the links to this show on furlobros.com/327. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play. And we would like to say thank you to Matthew Lindley of TechCrunch, and also John Biggs of TechCrunch. Look at these guys. And then finally, Steven Sinofsky at kind of a fun one, Learning by Shipping. So thank you guys for all of your contributions. This show is sponsored by listeners just like you and the fantastic DC Cinematic Universe. You really should check out Justice League. Let us know what you think about that too while you're at it. I know, multiple call to actions, my bad. And I am James Furlo, and my, what'd you say, 90 million? Is that the number? $190 million brother is Matthew Furlo. And so we will talk next time.